Dude. Alright. Emo-Punk War of 2008.
The Great Emo-Punk War of 2008 was a sight to
Jinx.
behold. Emos on one side, punks on the other, coming together to fight in the holy battleground of Mexico. Hair was spiked and swooped to one side, belts were used as weapons, and hundreds of police officers took to the scene to attempt to
What? Dude, what?
keep the
Why?
peace between warring factions of angry music lovers. It even scored a feature on international news, so
Like,
prominent
why
was the
though?
war between emos and punks. And it was organized via social media, of course, on forums and MySpace at the time.
It really happened?
Bizarrely, at the end, it was disrupted by
Why, dude?
a bunch of singing Hare Krishna monks who inevitably calmed everyone down to the point that they
I don't know what's up.
all got up and
I don't.
left. However, the entire riot started because emos said they were getting abusive messages from punks and other areas of music culture, and this tied into the idea of emos being oppressed for dressing and acting differently to everyone else. So of course, it all snowballed until an all-out war was announced. There is truth in the fact that emos were often targeted back in the day for the way they dressed and acted.
That's true. They're so similar though, except kinda not. Dude, that's so dumb. That is so dumb, man. Till the punks angry, emos made them look gay.
It was a huge difference from the norm at the time, as the emo men would often ditch the gym and go for a skinny, emaciated look with heavy makeup. This was an extremely subversive direction compared to the frosted blonde tips and more rugged looks of the early 2000s. Social outcasts could find a way to relate to one another by expressing themselves as people who didn't traditionally fit in. Being emo became an idea worth fighting for these social outcasts, especially in the face of targeted violence, and especially in the faces of
hate,
older adults who
crime,
said,
police attacks on punks, emos, and goth. Dude, I don't get it. I've never seen any of this.
they didn't get it and didn't like it, turning the identity of emo into an act of rebellion against authority and the mainstream.
Sorry, I don't know. That sounds racist. I'm gonna pull back.
So now that we have some
pull in.
context as to the existence of emo and its influences, as well as the fact that it had been targeted by other groups, we can start to put together
Brown emos make my head hurt. Like black or brown emos. I'm like, what is happening, dude? What are you doing?
the pieces regarding why a war began in Mexico between two hordes of passionate teenagers and adults alike, obsessed with music and identity. It all began on social media, when threats were thrown over MySpace from Mexican punks to Mexican emos. The idea
MySpace.
was that they'd be lynched or killed or beaten up
That's beyond me,
specifically because they were
beyond
a
my
part of
time.
emo subculture. At that time, many genuinely hated emos or made fun of them, which of course would only fuel the feelings of the emos as tortured souls. Apparently,
It fuels them. They love it, man. They love being there. Like,
much of
what?
the hatred toward emos came from their less masculine presentation. The fact that they'd style their hair or wear eyeliner meant a drastic departure from what was considered normal at that time, and so some assumed that identifying as emo meant you were homosexual, and that simply couldn't do.
No, it is pretty gay. I'm kidding. I guess I can see that. Like the punks are like rugged and like they don't care about their looks. So like,
This was back in the day when
so
wearing skinny jeans
the whole fight.
or performing any
I say that like like my country doesn't have a culture of schools fighting each other, which they do.
self-care as a man, like washing frequently or trimming a beard, was described as metrosexual. A play on homosexual, as looking after yourself was considered something that only a gay man would do.
True.
Emosexual.
Look at today, man. Look at today.
Which is pretty on the nose. Popular online groups existed at the time that discussed the emo subculture, and many were certainly not friendly or accepting of their existence, which only fueled the flames of hatred toward them as
Emosexual.
teenagers. Unfortunately, on March 7th, 2008, a popular hangout spot for emos was targeted by a mob of anti-emos, and several were actually beaten pretty badly. Time magazine covered this with the article, Mexico's Emo Bashing Problem. Journalist Joan Grillo, famous for covering hardcore stories about cartels in Mexico, said blogs raved about killing emos and showed cartoon drawings of decapitated long-haired heads. Internet writers called on anti-emos to take back public spaces such as the Plaza de Armas in Querétaro, where the black-clothed teenagers sit around. I also have to thank Joan for uploading a fantastic
This is so weird to me. Mexican emos. That didn't even cross my mind that is a possibility. It's like in Japan, there's those greasers, the people who dress like they came out straight off the movie Grease. It's I don't know. They're like, huh.
Level of footage regarding the event, fully covering
You don't
the
only
war
see
and
that,
interviewing
man.
tons of emos and locals about their thoughts and feelings, so I'd hardly recommend watching the entire thing. Eventually, the emos decided they'd meet up and march to protest against their torment, which led to a massive riot as police showed up in their hundreds to prevent more violence. At this stage, punks and other subcultures met the emos and the groups began yelling at one another, throwing various items and then eventually attempting to fight.
What for, man? Why?
And gave various interviews, with it seeming like the fighting would continue to escalate. The entire thing was eventually stopped as Hare Krishna monks danced through and everyone decided to go home. Honestly, it's the most ridiculous story, but it's one of those moments that proves the ridiculous
Monks
can
in
become
for the
true
win.
thanks to internet culture facilitating the fight. The crazy thing is that a lot of this stuff was documented online and covered by news stations, so it's not as if it's all been lost to time. You can still find the grainy footage uploaded in 2008 on YouTube. But there's more to the story here. We gotta dive into what makes an emo and how the entire subculture began.
True.
Emo subculture has had several booms and
Wait, didn't the same thing happen with like goths and emos, but like because of the scene kids? That was the new thing on the block. Scene. They weren't emo, they weren't goths, and it's so dumb, man.
busts over the years and seems to explode into popularity whenever things start getting particularly dire. Whilst it's generally accepted that the 2008 global financial crisis
Scene kids are pretty gay though. Scene kids are gay.
led to the emo subculture becoming far more mainstream in the early 2000s, thanks to a prevalent sense of doom and gloom bleeding out from the lack of optimism for the future, it has its roots in the 1980s. This is because the mid-80s were rife with horrific events and uncertainty. The decade marked the Cold War between the US and Russia, which gave everyone a persistent feeling of doom, as if nuclear Armageddon could erupt at any time.
Meanwhile,
Plus, the stock market crash of '87, otherwise known as Black Monday, led to rampant instability and another depression.
kids out there rebelling for no reason when the world could have ended.
Paranoia and uncertainty, which meant that society was extremely emotional. All of these elements led to the production of music known as emotional hardcore. It was a feeling expressed by bands such as Rites of Spring, which is widely credited as one of the inventors of the emo genre. Bands were suddenly making their music a little more artsy, a little more emotional, and a little more
gay.
as a response to a scene that was quickly becoming
Emotions
more
gay.
punk, and people began to really resonate with that. Then, in what is called second wave emo, spanning from the early 90s to roughly 2001, indie rock and alternative began permeating its way into the scene. Then, when the third wave finally struck from about 2001 to
Fall Out
2009,
Boy.
emo went properly mainstream, and bands like Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance became associated with the genre. The third wave was noticeably marked by a distinct sense of hopelessness across the world, as major events like 9/11, the War on Terror, and the 2007 to 2009 global financial crisis occurred, mirroring the issues of the 80s with
The
Cold
Big
War.
Bang's failing for some reason.
From Black Monday, providing
though they're
right
not meant to.
conditions for the emotional subculture to rise
Awesome.
to the surface yet again. Teenagers the world over became obsessed with dressing all in black, with sad lyrics posted onto MySpace and Facebook, and defining themselves as social outcasts, despite the fact that
Cause
sometimes
tonight
very
will
popular
be the
kids would dress
night
this way
that I
too.
will fall
Crying
for
in your room, wearing makeup, and styling your hair in a certain way became classic activities for teens.
so gay,
and many
man.
felt misunderstood and hated for it. It was then that we find ourselves at the heart of the emo-punk war of 2008, as the two genres of music found themselves back in their oppositional roots, as the emo response to punk's popularity in the 80s had found its way into the 2000s. However, it's worth noting that the emo subculture is not dead in the 2020s. There was an
No.
exhibition at the Barbican Centre in
No.
London marking the emo
Definitely
period
not.
from the 2007 era, called I'm Not Okay. It expertly depicted the mindset of teenagers at the time, with full-on music memorabilia, bedroom selfies, music ticket stubs, and everything that an emo from around the world, including Mexico, might have had at the
Jeez.
time they went to stubs, and everything that an
Look at all
emo from
this.
around the
This is so
world,
crazy.
including
I don't know, man.
Mexico, might have had at the time they went to war against the punks. However, what made the Emo-Punk 2008 war so special is that it reminded many, especially within the United States, that Mexicans are more than the sum of their stereotypes, as well as the fact that the footage had become something of a time capsule to look back on. People all
I mean,
over the
this is
world
new
want
to me,
identify
man. I did not even clock that. There could be emo Mexicans. That feels like an oxymoron.
with something bigger than themselves, and when their movements become fashionable as a form of self-expression, you end up with hordes dressed as emos defending their right to be so. The teenagers depicted in newsreels and clips wouldn't look out of place anywhere else on Earth during 2008, as the third wave of emo became so widespread as an idea expressed through not only fashion, music, and ideas, but also social media at that time, allowing teenagers to connect across the world at anywhere, anytime. However, at the end of the day, emo has...
Bro. Oh, brother. Oh, I almost said something that would have leaked something. Never mind.
really gone anywhere. It's still prominent, just...
Wait, let me screenshot this and send it to someone.
in different forms, and the idea that it comes in waves seems a bit misrepresentative. You'll still find teenagers and adults alike identifying as emo in their own way, and the subculture exists in all corners of social media, but perhaps it's simply not as popular as it once was in the early 2000s. In short, the great emo-punk war of 2008 may have been utterly ridiculous from an outsider's perspective, but as it turns
ridiculous.
out, emos had good reason to feel ostracized from society, as they were literally being beaten by mobs of people upset with their very existence. See you next time on Lessons in Internet Culture.
You know what? Fair. If they were being attacked first, yeah, fair. To be fair, it was their meeting spot and they got jumped. Like, what the heck? They just got yumped for no reason, man. That's crazy, huh? The punks out there like, hey, we're not gay. We're not like them. Jeez, man, that's so crazy.